The Arizona sun had just dipped behind the desert hills, painting the sky in hues of deep crimson and gold as a convoy of blacked-out SUVs coasted silently down a winding private road just outside Sedona. Each vehicle bore no plates, and the men inside them wore no smiles. They were soldiers, sicarios of the infamous Cartel del Norte, one of the most brutal drug trafficking syndicates to ever operate south of the border. Their leader tonight was Miguel El Cuervo Delgado, a ruthless enforcer who'd made his bones by executing rivals in broad daylight and filming the acts for cartel propaganda. Delgado had received a tip from a US-based informant, allegedly someone inside the federal system, that a mansion nestled in the hills outside Sedona belonged to a high-ranking Trump administration figure. Even more enticing, the tip suggested the property was lightly guarded and, more importantly, housed highly sensitive intelligence files. The name Karoline Leavitt had meant little to Delgado when he first heard it. But a quick search painted the picture clearly. She was the current White House press secretary under President Donald J. Trump, known for her unwavering loyalty, blistering takedowns of liberal journalists, and her fearless defense of the administration. Delgado assumed that where she lived, there would be power, influence, and secrets worth millions on the black market. The convoy slowed to a crawl as they reached the steel gates of the Leavitt estate. Situated on 45 acres of rugged land and flanked by towering cliffs and thick brush, the compound looked as serene as it was secure. Cameras dotted the perimeter, but the sicarios had come prepared with signal jammers and thermal optics. They exited their vehicles with precision, their boots crunching the gravel in unison, rifles drawn, night vision lenses illuminating the terrain. "Move fast. No mistakes," Delgado growled in Spanish. "We're in, we're out. 10 minutes max." But what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that Karoline Leavitt was no ordinary press secretary. Since joining the Trump White House in Trump's second term, she had become a favorite of the intelligence community. Not only was she briefed regularly by the CIA, but her home had also been retrofitted by military contractors with advanced defense systems at Trump's personal request. And tonight, she was home. Inside the mansion, Karoline sat in a leather armchair by the fire, sipping a glass of bourbon, her Rottweiler Diesel sprawled at her feet. She wore a simple black sweatshirt and yoga pants, her blonde hair tied up, face unpainted but determined as ever. She was reviewing speech drafts for the next day's press briefing when her phone buzzed. "Motion detected, Sector B3. Status, intrusion. Confirm protocol?" Karoline's brow furrowed. She tapped a code into her tablet, triggering a silent lockdown. All entrances automatically sealed. Emergency lights flickered on. And then came the voice, calm, robotic, and unmistakably male. "Karoline, we have company." The voice belonged to Aegis, an AI security protocol built by DARPA and installed in her home after she received multiple credible threats in early 2024. It was capable of analyzing threats in real time, deploying countermeasures, and even contacting Blackwater-trained security teams on standby within a 10-mile radius. Karoline rose from her chair, walked calmly to the mantel, and pulled down a leather-bound copy of The Art of War. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a biometric scanner and a rack of weapons, a Glock 19, an MP7 submachine gun, and several flatbangs. Deploy counter-surveillance drones. Jam their signals. Lock Sector B. And call in Falcon Team. "Yes, ma'am," Aegis replied. Outside, Delgado and his men moved silently, unaware that their fate was already being sealed. The cartel strike team breached the gate without issue. The jammer blocked outgoing signals, or so they believed. The estate seemed quiet, too quiet. Delgado gestured to his second-in-command, Arturo, and the two flanked the path toward the main entrance. Heat sensors had shown at least one person inside, but that didn't matter. They had superior numbers and firepower. Or so they thought. Inside the mansion, Karoline had switched into full tactical mode. She moved quickly down the hallways of her smart fortress, issuing rapid-fire commands to Aegis, whose systems were now operating at full defense readiness. Outside, above the rocky cliff to the north, something stirred in the sky. At first, it looked like stars were shifting, but soon it became clear. 4 sleek, black drones emerged from a hidden hatch on the mansion's rooftop. Each was equipped with real-time surveillance optics, infrared targeting, and blinding strobe lights. They swooped down like angry hornets. "Mierda!" One of the sicarios yelled as the first drone dropped a flash charge, blinding 2 men instantly. "What the hell is this?" Delgado barked, shielding his eyes as another drone strafed low, disorienting his squad with a non-lethal sonic burst. Before they could regroup, a low growl echoed from behind them. Diesel, the Rottweiler, had been released. He tore through the brush like a missile, teeth bared, targeting a lagging gunman. The man didn't stand a chance, his screams cut through the night like a warning. Delgado fired a shot, narrowly missing the animal, but it was already gone, receding into the shadows like a ghost. The strike team was unraveling fast. That's when the real threat arrived. From a narrow canyon trail just east of the mansion, a blacked-out helicopter touched down silently behind a ridge. 6 figures in combat gear rappelled out, each dressed in tactical black, night vision goggles glowing, silenced weapons at the ready. This was Falcon Team, a private strike unit composed of former Navy SEALs, handpicked by President Trump himself to provide shadow-level protection for top administration officials. These weren't your average bodyguards. They were ghosts. Killers. Guardians of the highest order. Their leader, a stone-faced warrior codenamed Hawk, led the team on foot through the rear flank of the mansion. Engage non-lethal first, he muttered into his throat mic, if they escalate, we go live. Inside, Karoline monitored the chaos from her command room, a high-tech nerve center with live feeds from every angle of the property. She watched as Falcon Team fanned out, moving like phantoms through the desert terrain. She activated the external floodlights, momentarily blinding the cartel squad now bunched up near the eastern patio. Delgado realized they'd been played. This isn't a mansion, he hissed, ducking behind a garden wall. It's AF*****ing military base. Retreat? Arturo asked, breathing hard, sweat pouring from his brow. No. We take the woman. Or we die trying. Wrong answer. Just then, Falcon Team made contact. Hawk's voice cracked through their encrypted radios. 3 tangos north side. 2 down. 1 running. They were surgical. One by one, cartel fighters were taken out, darts, tasers, flashbangs, zip ties. In less than 3 minutes, more than half the team had been incapacitated. A few panicked and tried to flee back to the vehicles only to find the tires slashed and engines fried. The drones had already done their job. From the command room, Karoline watched Delgado himself breach the side of the house. She didn't flinch. Instead, she pressed a button labeled Protocol Ironclad. A steel shutter slammed down behind him, sealing him inside a narrow hallway lit by red emergency lights. Welcome, Mr. Delgado, Aegis announced over the speakers in its polite British accent. You've made a rather grave error. Delgado raised his weapon, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He didn't know where the voice was coming from, but he didn't care. Show yourself, he roared. Instead, the floor beneath him opened and he dropped 6 feet into a padded containment cell designed for exactly this kind of situation. Outside, Falcon Team rounded up the remaining sicarios, binding them in reinforced cuffs and tagging them with GPS trackers. Arturo tried to fight but was quickly dropped by a roundhouse kick from Hawk himself. Karoline finally emerged from her command room dressed in light tactical armor. Her expression was calm, composed, even elegant. She stepped outside and surveyed the scene. The mansion was untouched. The cartel? Crushed. Hawk approached her. Target neutralized. All hostiles accounted for. No civilian casualties. Karoline nodded. Good work, as always. From his containment cell, Delgado stared in disbelief as the press secretary of the United States walked past him like a general inspecting the ruins of a defeated army. You messed with the wrong American, she said without even looking down. Sunrise spilled over the Arizona hills like liquid fire, casting golden light on the aftermath of the failed raid. The Leavitt estate looked untouched from the outside, save for a few scorched bushes and drag marks in the gravel. Inside, the subdued hum of the mansion's AI security system returned to idle mode, sensors recalibrating, protocols cooling off. Karoline stood at the edge of the east patio, sipping her second coffee of the morning, hair pulled back into a bun, sunglasses shielding her eyes. Behind her, Falcon Team loaded the cartel prisoners, bound, hooded and shackled, into the transport helicopter. Each would be interrogated off-site, in a location known only to a select few in the intelligence world. Delgado, still locked inside the containment cell in the basement, hadn't said a word since his capture. Karoline turned to Hawk. How many did we lose? None, Hawk replied with military precision. 1 scratch on Bravo. That's it. She smirked. That'll disappoint the media. Hawk allowed himself a rare grin. They'll still find a way to blame us. As the helicopter lifted off and disappeared over the ridge, Karoline turned back toward her home. Inside, she passed a team of forensic techs already wiping down the scene. She moved with the grace of someone who had just hosted a dinner party, not survived an armed cartel incursion. But the mission wasn't over. Not yet. Inside her private office, she activated a secured line on her tablet. A scrambled video connection appeared, pixels snapping into the familiar face of President Donald J. Trump, sitting at the resolute desk in the Oval Office. "Karoline," he said, leaning forward, his expression surprisingly calm. "Heard you had a bit of excitement last night." She nodded once. "Cartel del Norte, 20 operatives, all neutralized." Trump whistled. "And I thought the Democrats were your biggest problem." Karoline cracked a smile. "These guys had more coordination than the DNC. Barely. Did they touch anything classified?" "Not even close," she said. "They didn't realize what they were walking into. I think they thought I was just a mouthpiece." Trump's eyes narrowed. "You've proven more than that." Again. There was a pause, and then Trump leaned back in his chair. "Let's make this public. A strong message. We're not rolling over anymore. If they think they can breach an official's home and live to brag about it, they've got another thing coming." Karoline nodded slowly. "You sure? This will make headlines. There'll be blowback. Human rights groups. International press." Trump leaned forward, eyes blazing. "Good. Let them talk. We didn't start this fight, but we'll damn well finish it." The call ended. Karoline sat still for a moment, fingers laced beneath her chin. Then she tapped a key on her desk and connected to the White House press room in D.C. Dozens of reporters' faces popped onto her screen, all expecting the usual morning briefing. She didn't wait. "Good morning," she began, cool as ever. "Last night, the home of a senior White House official, mine, was attacked by foreign operatives linked to the Mexican Cartel del Norte." Gasps filled the press pool. "This was not a robbery," she continued. "This was a targeted raid. An attempted extraction of intelligence, possibly assassination. But they failed. Miserably. Hands flew into the air. She ignored them. Every member of the attack team was captured or neutralized by U.S. tactical units operating under executive authorization. No loss of life on our side. Minimal damage. And yes, I was present the entire time." More gasps. Karoline leaned closer to the camera, letting the gravity of her words sink in. "To those watching from across the border or across the ocean, let me be clear, this administration does not bow. We don't run. And we do not forget." The silence on the call was deafening. She ended the broadcast with a final sentence that would play on every news outlet for the next 72 hours. "Come for us again, and you'll find out why America still leads the free world." The reaction across the border in Mexico was instantaneous and chaotic. Deep within the Sinaloa highlands, cartel leaders sat around a long oak table inside a guarded hacienda. The room was quiet, lit only by the morning sun streaming through cracked shutters. Phones buzzed. Screens showed U.S. news anchors replaying the clip of Karoline Leavitt's press conference over and over. She said, "Come for us again." "That's not a bluff," muttered Carlos Mejia, a logistics commander with ties to 3 stateside networks. "She neutralized an entire squad," said another, thumbing prayer beads nervously. "Delgado was one of our best." Was corrected Vicente El Dr. Ramirez, the cartel's shadowy strategist and second in command. His face was stoic, voice low. "Now he's in U.S. custody, being flipped, no doubt. And the Americans, they're not hiding it," Carlos said. "They want us to know they saw it coming. That they planned for it." Silence settled over the room like a funeral shroud. Finally, El Dr. stood and walked to a cabinet. He pulled out a dusty file stamped with a blacked-out Pentagon seal. "I warned Delgado not to underestimate her. She's not just a press secretary. She's a student of psychological warfare. Her mentor was General Michael Flynn. She's former IC communications trained in federal threat protocols. Trump elevated her for a reason." A third man in the room, younger and visibly shaken, leaned forward. "What do we do? Retaliate?" El Dr. didn't answer immediately. Instead, he placed a single photo on the table. It showed Karoline walking beside President Trump on the White House lawn, hand shielding her eyes from the sun, a document folder under one arm. "She is now a symbol," he said. "And symbols are dangerous. When Americans rally behind one, they become difficult to defeat." "What if she uses this as leverage to launch action against us?" asked the youngest commander. "They could send in drone teams, cut off our banking routes, freeze assets." "They already are," El Dr. said grimly. "And they're not doing it covertly anymore. The gloves are off." At that moment, a call came in scrambled through multiple relays. Doctor answered, said nothing, and listened for almost a full minute. When he hung up, he turned to the others. The Americans just authorized joint task force operations with private contractors Falcon, Talon, even Ghost Light. A gasp. Those are black budget units. Exactly, Doctor nodded. Which means this isn't about Karoline anymore. It's about sending a global message. He looked directly at the younger man. Cancel all border operations for the next 30 days. Move supply routes. Burn the safe houses. From this moment on, we are ghosts. No more incursions. No more games. You think they'll stop? No, Doctor said. I think they'll escalate. But we'll make it hurt as little as possible. He paused, then added almost with reverence. She baited us. And we took it. Now she's the most dangerous woman in America. Meanwhile, back in Washington, Karoline stood in the Situation Room. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the overhead screens showing satellite feeds of cartel camps. President Trump entered with his chief of staff and nodded toward her. We've got the green light. Falcon team leaves again in 12 hours. This time, they don't just defend. They dismantle. Karoline nodded, folding her arms. Good. No more playing defense. She turned toward a screen showing a heat signature near the Gulf, one of the cartel's hidden processing hubs. I'm not going to let them think America is some soft target. They tried to raid my home like I was some intern with a press pass. Yeah? Now they'll learn what it feels like when you make an enemy of someone with the full power of the executive branch behind her. Trump grinned. Remind me again why I hired you? Because you knew I'd never back down, she replied. 12 hours later, the desert night sky over northern Mexico was silent, eerily so. The usual buzz of cartel activity, pickups loaded with product, smugglers prepping routes to Arizona was gone. Replaced by darkness. Uncertainty. Fear. Then came the thunder. Doctor didn't answer immediately. Instead, he placed a single photo on the table. It showed Karoline walking beside President Trump on the White House lawn, hand shielding her eyes from the sun, a document folder under one arm. She is now a symbol, he said. And symbols are dangerous. When Americans rally behind one, they become difficult to defeat. What if she uses this as leverage to launch action against us? Asked the youngest commander. They could send in drone teams, cut off our banking routes, freeze assets. They already are, Doctor said grimly. And they're not doing it covertly anymore. The gloves are off. At that moment, a call came in, scrambled through multiple relays. Doctor answered, said nothing, and listened for almost a full minute. When he hung up, he turned to the others. The Americans just authorized joint task force operations with private contractors Falcon, Talon, even Ghost Light. A gasp. Those are black budget units. Exactly, Doctor nodded. Which means this isn't about Karoline anymore. It's about sending a global message. He looked directly at the younger man. Cancel all border operations for the next 30 days. Move supply routes. Burn the safe houses. From this moment on, we are ghosts. No more incursions. No more games. You think they'll stop? No, Doctor said. I think they'll escalate. But we'll make it hurt as little as possible. He paused, then added almost with reverence. She baited us. And we took it. Now she's the most dangerous woman in America. Meanwhile, back in Washington, Karoline stood in the Situation Room. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the overhead screens showing satellite feeds of cartel camps. President Trump entered with his chief of staff and nodded toward her. We've got the green light. Falcon team leaves again in 12 hours. This time, they don't just defend. They dismantle. Karoline nodded, folding her arms. Good. No more playing defense. She turned toward a screen showing a heat signature near the Gulf, one of the cartel's hidden processing hubs. I'm not going to let them think America is some soft target. They tried to raid my home like I was some intern with a press pass. Yeah? Now they'll learn what it feels like when you make an enemy of someone with the full power of the executive branch behind her. Trump grinned. Remind me again why I hired you? Because you knew I'd never back down, she replied. 12 hours later, the desert night sky over northern Mexico was silent, eerily so. The usual buzz of cartel activity, pickups loaded with product, smugglers prepping routes to Arizona was gone. Replaced by darkness. Uncertainty. Fear. Then came the thunder. A fleet of unmarked helicopters streaked across the border, flying low and fast beneath radar. Flanking them were a series of high-altitude drones armed with state-of-the-art surveillance and non-lethal payloads. The mission was not to start a war, but to deliver a message so devastating it would reverberate through every back-alley meeting, every bribe paid, every whispered deal made in the shadows. At the heart of the operation was Karoline Leavitt. No longer in her Arizona mansion, she had flown overnight to the Falcon Command Center, an off-the-books base in Nevada known only to a handful of top officials. From there, she monitored the operation in real time. Aegis, her mansion's AI, had been uploaded to the Falcon tactical systems. She had full operational command. Operation Liberty Shield is a go, Hawk's voice confirmed over the encrypted channel. Karoline's eyes locked onto the satellite feed. Begin Phase 1. Disable communications. Within seconds, the cartel compound lit up, cell towers fizzled, radios went dead, and backup generators were fried via electromagnetic pulse. Chaos reigned. Inside the compound, cartel guards scrambled, blind to the location of the inbound assault. Their security feeds had been hijacked by Aegis, now displaying only one phrase. You knocked on the wrong door. Then the Falcon team struck. They rappelled from the sky, precision perfect, moving with terrifying speed and coordination. Gas grenades dropped into the courtyards, creating thick white clouds. Screams echoed. Weapons were fired blindly. But Falcon moved like phantoms, disarming, disabling, neutralizing. The key objective was simple: capture El Doctor. Inside the main hacienda, El Doctor attempted to flee through an underground passage. But Falcon had anticipated this. As he sprinted through the tunnel, a blinding white light burst before him. Standing in his way was not a soldier, but a camera drone. Karoline's face appeared on its screen. End of the line, Vicente. Moments later, 2 Falcon operatives tackled him to the ground. It was over. 2 days later, the nation was riveted as Karoline stepped back onto the White House podium. Dressed in a crisp black blazer and steel gray skirt, she looked more like a general than a spokesperson. 3 nights ago, she began, the United States was targeted by a foreign criminal organization. That attempt failed. Tonight, I can report that Falcon team successfully dismantled one of the largest cartel command structures in the Western Hemisphere. Cameras flashed wildly. Reporters could barely type fast enough. El Doctor, a real name Vicente Ramirez, is in U.S. custody. Several high-ranking operatives have been transferred to black sites for further questioning. All operations were conducted with precision, no civilian casualties, and within the rules of engagement authorized by President Trump. One reporter raised a hand. Ms. Leavitt, some are saying you escalated this conflict personally, took it too far. That this is unprecedented for a press secretary. Karoline didn't blink. You're damn right it's unprecedented, she replied. We're in a new era now. One where American officials are no longer targets of opportunity. We will not stand by while foreign actors try to intimidate us, our families, or our institutions. She looked directly into the camera, speaking not just to Americans, but to the world. This administration will not fold. We will not hide. And if you come at us, we will come back tenfold. The room erupted. Even the reporters who hated her, who mocked her daily, sat in stunned silence. Because they knew they had just witnessed the birth of something new. A message not just of power, but of total resolve. Delgado, now detained in a black site holding cell, refused to speak. Rumor had it he was cooperating in exchange for protection. El Doctor, meanwhile, was being interrogated by a task force of CIA and DA operatives with direct oversight from Karoline herself. And Karoline? She returned to her Arizona home where Diesel greeted her like nothing had happened. She sat on her patio that night, glass of bourbon in hand, watching the stars. Aegis chimed softly through the house speakers. Threat level, minimal. All systems green. She smiled. Let's keep it that way. Then she looked up at the moonlit sky, eyes sharp and unyielding. Because now the world knew the cartel had tried to take her down and regretted it instantly. And next time, they'd remember who they were messing with.